Hey, good morning, everybody, or soon to be afternoon. You're probably about to eat lunch, or you're just waking up and you'll have lunch around 3 o'clock. Um, and so our dog Tonka went to dog school. We took him to get some training done, and for graduation, they gave him a toy. It's this toy. The toy is actually really annoying, but it got me thinking. This toy and us have some things in common. A couple things. Some of you might be making annoying sounds and driving your family nuts. But all of us, I find, we've been talking about rest and moments of rest. But I found that we often don't know where this ball is until something gets it moving again. And that something is usually Toffee bumping the ball and it then being chased by her again. And so, anyways, one thing we've learned is this idea of that when something is in motion, it stays in motion. But when something is at rest, it stays at rest. And so you might be wondering why I'm talking about that today. Well, I think many of us have found that we have slowed way down. And so we were used to a busier pace of life. We were used to having to deal with regular little, crises, whether, an example would be an issue pops up, we got to fix it. And those things can actually be things that drive us and move us forward. And so now we're just we have a lot of extra time. I've heard a few people, whether it's been Heather and I talking, I've talked with friends that are pastors, I've been talking with friends online, and there's this thing where I've heard people mention things like my schedule is really cleared up. I'm looking for things to do. I have more time than I've ever had in a long time, and it's just this idea that we've just as a community, we've just really slowed way down. And so it's kind of set in for some either a sense of apathy, being in a funk, feeling discouraged, feeling blah. You've heard it described in a lot of different ways. Now, obviously, not everybody's there. Some are probably busier than ever because you're in a certain field that requires you to be busy. But for many people, they're really just kind of in a funk. And I thought about why. And I think for some, it's because the thing that drove them, the thing that motivated them, the thing that made you get up in the morning has stopped or slowed way down. And there's not this pressure to get things done, which in some ways is good, right? The pressure is off, but now also then the motivation isn't there anymore. And so we just kind of slowed down, and there really isn't a reason to get things done now. And so my wife and I, we've joked like, we could do that project, but we don't have to, because we could probably do it tomorrow. And with the way things go, we could probably do it in a month from now. And so there's, in some ways, a lot of people are kind of finding that the struggle with motivation in the midst of doing certain things because we're being forced to not do the things that normally would be natural motivators for us. For some, they're being slowed down because anxiety has a way of creating discouragement. Anybody who's ever dealt with anxiety, I've dealt with, pretty severe anxiety at different times in my life. It can be very much a demotivator. And so for some, this fear and anxiety that they might still be dealing with is there. And, the reality is some also, maybe they're not as anxious anymore, but you're becoming just more apathetic because the other thing is, it's because there's a disruption. You don't really know where to go from here. Like in some ways, because we're not in the same patterns we've been in before, we don't know where to go next. And so I was just thinking, and I was praying, and there's a verse that we've used before, but I think might be good for this time too. Is Philippians 4:8. Paul said, he goes, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things." Now he's talking about how we focus our minds. He's talking about what is it we should put our attention to. What is it we can direct our life to? But in this, the word that jumps out to me when I was reading this was the idea of what am I focusing on and what can I focus on? And so maybe the first step out of just kind of being apathetic and feeling unmotivated is shifting our focus to what things can I do? What things can I celebrate? What things can I focus on? And Paul was obviously talking about, and it begins first in our mind. And I think of this verse specifically because I have a tendency to sit on Facebook a lot and I see somebody say something I don't agree with or I think is, dumb or stupid or silly or, whatever adjective. And I want to jump in and start arguing. Well, that's really not falling in line with the healthy focus that God, I think, is speaking to us to do. And so, I think about it. Like, here is an opportunity for me to use my time to focus on what is true, to focus on what is noble, what is good, what is right. what things have I been distracted from that I can now shift to? And and so I thought about, what can I do? Maybe it's setting some fresh goals. Some people are good at making a new list and going at it. That might be a way for you to do it. Maybe refine what you focus on. I think here, and I think for many, it's beginning to or continuing to kind of retrain your brain in what you focus on and what you think about. And I think the extra time has kind of brought back a lot of that for people. Busyness helps keep us distracted from what goes on in our head at times, and now we have a lot of time to think about what can be discouraging. And so here again, Paul directs us to, where are we thinking differently about, even the situation we're in or the things we're going through that will help us become motivated again. Honestly, I think one of the things I think about, and I've shared this with Heather, and I've told this to myself, is like enjoy the slowdown, and don't feel guilty about it. I think some people at times feel guilty that they're not constantly moving. And again, maybe God is, like we talked about Sunday, using this as a season of rest. And if you're in the ruts, get some people to help you out. There is a part where you have to somehow take some steps, and at the very least, pray that God maybe will bring some people to help you get in and out of the ruts, because this is also normal. It's natural. You're going to go in and out of ruts, and also just remind yourself that things will get back to some level of normalcy. That life will return to what you knew. It may not be completely the same, but you'll again have the deadlines, you'll have the things you got to get done, you'll have the kids to get to school, you'll have the job with the pressures, all that will come back. And so where do we maybe just use this time to make some healthy shifts in our minds and our hearts? And so where do we use some of this stuff to kind of, again, get remotivated in the right things that God might be calling us to do? And so I hope you're finding ways to be encouraged. I hope you're finding ways to stay motivated. Share with us the ways that you're staying motivated. Share with others, and continue to encourage one another. I think one way we can stay encouraged and motivated and not fall into apathy is we continue to be encouraging. That's one of the reasons I don't get stuck on things I can't control, is because they don't help me move forward into what God has wanted to do. And so you guys have a happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, and it's not raining today, so that's a good thing. And we just hope you guys have a good Thursday. Get some coffee and all that fun stuff. See you later. Bye, guys.